I know Mondays are rough. Um, so a couple of things that I did want to mention before we actually get started with um, the poetry unit. Um, Last week, at the end of last week, I posted a few announcements regarding the honors project. Sorry, I'm trying to read the chat too. Okay. So okay, I posted a couple announcements regarding the honors project. So I hope you guys were able to see that and um, review some of the information, the extra info regarding just analyzing. And then I posted an announcement regarding how to go about tackling the length requirement for that paper, some things that you can focus on, how to compose your thesis so that it's a little bit more broad to give you some wiggle room in your body paragraphs. So does anyone have any questions regarding that information? Keep in mind that the honors project again is not the I don't even remember how many words. It said like 2,500 words. That's not required of you. Try to keep it between 750 and 1,500 words. That's sufficient. That is correct. It is a poem. Um, Regarding the in-text citation, if you are quoting, definitely you're going to want to put those quotation marks around quotes, and then also include the line number. So I guess the answer to that would be yes, you are including that in text citation. Yes. Yes. Good question. The word requirement is 750 to about 1,500. So a couple of pages is sufficient. On the assignment, it says like 2,500 words. So I don't want you, yeah, 2,500 to 5,000, and that's pretty excessive um, for an honors project. So wanted to cut that down a bit. So you can choose a poem, anything that we've studied this year, something that you may have studied in the past, a poem that you really like that's maybe not in the course. Just make sure that it is a published poem. And then some other directions, and this is also on the assignment itself. Some other directions include making sure that the poem was originally written in English. So there are some specifics, but um, you do have a lot of room to play with there. So if you do find a poem that you like that we haven't gone over, that's perfectly fine. I'm not sure what you mean. Are you going to write it in a different poem? I mean, in a different language? I hope not, because unfortunately, all I speak is English and all I can read is English. Um, no, just make sure that the poem was originally written in English. All right. Any other questions? Okay. I think you guys can do it. Once you get your thesis statement written and you go about doing a close reading on the poem that you choose, it won't be too difficult. It can be 5 paragraphs. Just, make sure that it's organized. It flows between ideas. If you feel like it's too much in a paragraph, then it's okay to break it up. So it's really going to depend on you and your style, but it's okay if the paragraphs are long as they flow. Okay, good. All righty, let's get started then. So again, we're still talking poetry, but we are moving into poems about war or war poetry. And there are many different poets who have written about war, and they have done so in a variety of different ways. We have those poets that are kind of pro-war, or I don't want to say pro-war, but um, they show the more gruesome side, and then there are poets that glorify it. Yes, that's a good word. Um, so this unit gives us the opportunity to read some of the most famous war poetry from the 19th and 20th century. So we've seen both sides of that. Um, yeah, exactly. Um, Several poems in this unit focus on the same wars, whether it be World War I, World War II, Civil War, but their language, their viewpoint, and their themes vary just tremendously. So before we get into that, let's do a little matching here. We're going to match the left with the right. On the left is the poetic device, and then on the right is the example. So the first one we have is onomatopoeia, then alliteration, and then personification. You guys can use the whiteboard if you would like. So the example here, there will come soft rains and the smell of the ground and swallows circling with their shimmering sound. What is that an example of? The next one, so fierce you were and pound you drums so shrill you bugles blow. And then the third one, great is the battle god, great in his kingdom, a field where 1,000 corpses lie. Oh, we have some mixed results here. All right, so the first one, onomatopoeia, is actually, oh, we have, that one is pretty straightforward, I guess. You guys all got that right. That one's B. And then 2, alliteration, that is actually A. We have the soft, smell, swallows, shimmering, sound. And then 3, personification is C. All right. Another quick activity, I want you guys to define these in your own words. Again, you can use the whiteboard. We have apostrophe, idiom, oxymoron, paradox, synecdoche, and hyperbole. Have we gotten this far in the unit? That's okay. You can just choose one. There you go. Well, that is really good because you'll learn something new. So we're expanding our vocabulary when it comes to poetic devices. So when you know the definitions of certain words, it'll be a little bit easier for you to find them in the poem that you choose. So the more poetic devices you know, the easier it is for you to analyze because you'll be able to find them. So we know at least one, right? We know hyperbole. We've seen that one many of times. And that is exaggeration. What about oxymoron? I think we've seen that a few times, probably in just everyday life as well. Yeah, that is a perfect example. Yeah, so pretty ugly. That is an oxymoron. Thank you for that. Thank you, Anna. That's a pretty good definition for an idiom. All right, I'm going to give you guys the definition so you can take a screenshot and have them for your running list. Yes. All right, do we have them all? And these words are not exclusive to poetry, but you will find them in poetry and other types of writing. All right, moving along. All right, so the first poet that I want to talk to you guys about is Walt Whitman. You'll read several poems by him in the unit. He was a teacher, a journalist, an activist, and of course, a poet. He lived through many of the defining events of the 19th century. The most important event that he lived through was the Civil War, about which he wrote several poems. He's considered by many to be the greatest American poet ever. He wrote Leaves of Grass, which is an anthology. It includes a variety of different poems. It was his life's work. Um, and the anthology was published in 1855, but he continued to add to it and publish new versions of it for the rest of his life. So one of those poems was or is Beat Beat Drums. And this particular poem, which you will read in the course, is filled with language that appeals to the reader's sense of hearing by repeatedly referring to the sounds of the drums and the bugle. Yeah. This poem focuses on the start of a war's effect on life in various places. Continuing on with Beat Beat Drums. Um, War interrupts life in this poem. It stops people from continuing their normal routines and disrupts activities, both public and private. So most readers view war as negative for causing such disruptions. The piece suggests that things that are positive and desirable are put on hold by war, which causes people to be upset and threatens danger to those who participate. So I'm going to let you guys listen to it. All right, that was Beat Beat Drums. So moving on to another poem by Walt Whitman. We have Come Up from the Fields, Father. And this poem depicts a different wartime experience and includes the lives of those people at home when a loved one goes off to fight. So in this poem, we have pleasant descriptions of the weather and the seasons at the start of the work, and they are in sharp contrast with his presentation of the stark reality of losing a family member to violence at the very end of the poem. The poem shows the victimization of the innocent bystanders, the punishment inflicted on people who are nowhere near the fighting, and it speaks to the unnatural breaking of an elemental human bond between mother and child and the consequences of that breaking. The son's death shocks and saddens the family members, but no one is more affected than the mother who retreats into her grief. Ooh, that's okay. I'm going to add that to the list. Okay, so the next two we have are The Soldier and In Flanders Fields. The Soldier, you guys are going to actually analyze in your breakout rooms in about 10 minutes, I guess. So you will read that a little bit further. And In Flanders Fields is in your textbook. So you can go on to read that one as well. So these poems focus on World War I. They are two of the most famous poems written during this conflict. Both poems are about people dying in World War One. Both poems view the deaths of soldiers in war as glorious or valiant, and they both address those who remain alive. The Soldier is by Rupert Brooke, and In Flanders Fields is by John McGray. So just a little FYI. The next poem you will read is Dulce et decorum est, and please excuse me if I pronounce that wrong. Um, so in Latin, it actually means it is good and appropriate to die for one's country. So that's what it translates to. And Wilfred Owens actually challenges that claim in this particular poem. This poem is about World War One, but it is very different from the other World War One poems in the unit. Owens takes a harsh view of war rather than glorifying the soldier's service to a cause or nation. So next we have War is Kind. And an important element in Stephen Crane's poem, this War is Kind, is irony. So even the title itself is ironic. Crane intermingles descriptions of the pain and violence of war with urgings from the speaker not to weep over deaths. So one thing to keep in mind is that a poet might choose to employ irony in a war poem because irony plays with the expectations of readers. It delivers a message in a way that is unexpected or unusual, which can make the poem more memorable and powerful. Yes, it is very interesting. All right. Let's see, what do we have next? And also keep in mind, these poems are not very long, so you will be able to get through them fairly quickly in the unit. But of course, I just wanted to give you guys kind of like a preview of what you'll see in the different themes that you can expect. So the next one is There Will Come Soft Rains. And you will read this in the unit as well. This is Sarah Teasdale's poem. Let me see. It describes a time after a war is over, but Teasdale's poem goes even further, presenting a speaker and a scene that are unique for war poetry. The poem takes place after a war has ended and people no longer exist. The poem depicts the peace and tranquility of nature in the absence of man's violent and destructive influence. Her work actually suggests that the world is far better off without humanity and its wars. So we are going to take a listen. Here we go. Okay. It's so funny, my mic just turned on when I switched back. Um, so that was Sarah Teasdale's poem, There Will Come Soft Rains. I wanted to show you guys the one where it's like some visuals that went along with it, but it was a little confusing because it had Mother Nature depicted as like a human person, and this poem is specific about nature being better off without humans. So, anyways, um, I might post it in the announcements, but just a little FYI, the theme is without humans, the world is better off. All right, so the next thing we are going to do is take a look at Owen and Brooke's poems in our breakout rooms. You read each one. There's going to be 3 slides. So it'll have this slide as well as Dulcie et Decorum Est and the Soldier, each on their own slides. And what I want you guys to do is first read through each of the poems and go through and try to find those literary devices that are utilized in each of the poems. So you can highlight, write notes on the side, talk to each other about it, find the things that stand out. And then at the very end, ask each other and yourselves, what is the poet's message about war? What is the theme for each of these poems? Okay, any questions? We're going to take about 15 minutes. You can read them together in your breakout room, or you can read them on your own. It's up to you. They're not very long. See, this is the Soldier. This one's a bit longer. Dulcie et Decorum Est. It's up to your group. There will be approximately, let me see. I am going to have, let's do 3 rooms. No, let's do 4. We'll do 4 rooms. So there will be 3 to 4 people in each room. Okay. So any questions, concerns before we break out? All right, I'm sending you guys now. Hey guys, welcome back. It looked like you guys were having a really good discussion in your breakout rooms. So tell me what you talked about. What is the poet's main message in the first one, The Soldier?
In our group, we said that in the soldier, the point is kind of that the person, even if they die fighting for their country somewhere else, they still take that legacy of their nation with them. So it's still sort of victory.
Yes, absolutely. So you guys picked up on the fact that the soldiers were buried in the foreign land. Wherever they died, they were buried there. And for the people that live on, they should take some solace, I guess, in knowing that there's a little bit of England in particular still in those foreign lands. Right? Did anyone else have something to add? No, that was pretty good. Thank you, Anna, for jumping on the mic and talking about that one. What about the next one? Dulcie at the Cormess.
Well, we said that it was like kind of the opposite of the soldier poem because it like condemned that it was a good thing to die for your country because people like go through a lot of pain, and it's that kind of pain is like much harder to endure than the death when you're like when you have a hospital because they can give you like things to numb your pain, but on the battlefield it just hurts so much more. And it's like contrast with the other poem, and he like uses imagery to describe the dying man. To like show how terrible it is and how much people can suffer, and like the words all have like negative connotations, and like they're all like fearful or like tired, like limped, drunk with fatigue, and like clumsy and stumbling. So like it was like kind of the opposite of the other poem.
Absolutely. Thank you for that analysis. Go ahead.
So I also think that this poem, like the second one, it condemns war, but it kind of and it says that war isn't supposed to just be like seen as glorious or good or anything, but it kind of leaves the reader to decide whether it's worth it at the end. If there are still some things that are worth fighting for despite the danger.
That is a really good perspective. Thank you. But yeah, I'm glad you guys picked up on the imagery of this poem. It's definitely a lot harder to read when you read words such as gluttering and choking and drowning and the white eyes writhing in his face. Like those, it's really hard to read this imagery. Corrupted, the froth corrupted lungs. It definitely shows the opposite, as Catherine mentioned, the opposite of the first poem, The Soldier. Yes. Okay, you guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you for sharing your thoughts regarding these, and hopefully you continue to read on and go on to analyzing these poems in the unit. Do you guys have any questions, concerns? All right, so if not, that's it for today, and I hope you all have a wonderful week. Thank you. Bye, you guys.